Hey, everybody. Welcome to our very first Zoom interview with the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle Dillon. Thanks for joining me, buddy. It's good talking to you. Love any chance I get to hang out with you and talk to you, even though we're on a screen. Today, the topic is dating and pursuit, and just recently got engaged. Big congratulations about that. We're super, super happy for you guys. So tell us a little bit about yours and Leah's story, about how y'all got started, about how the relationship started, about how you pursued her. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I'll rewind the clock back to, I guess it was December 2018 is when I first asked her out. So to give you a little bit of background on myself, I'm a little bit older. I'm 37 years old now. And I've dated a few girls before, not a ton, but a few, and faced some disappointments, and was not too long before that time coming out of a relationship. And then I noticed that Leah was a new member at Riveroaks, and we had started up a conversation casually when we were at a group gathering at the Brinks house. I took a liking to her pretty quickly, and I decided to move pretty quickly. So I didn't have her phone number. I didn't know how to contact her, but I knew we were friends on Facebook. So I'm like, okay, I'll work with what I got. So I sent her a message on Facebook. It said, hey, I really have enjoyed getting to know you, and I think I'd like to take you on a date. How would you feel about that? So I was like pretty forward up front. And her response was, well, I'm very flattered, and I would definitely like to get to know you more. But I'm aware that you were in a relationship not too long ago, and you should know that I've never been in a relationship before. So I think it'd be better if we moved slowly. So she asked me a couple questions. She's like, would you be okay if we just started out hanging out in groups as friends? And would you be okay talking with my dad first?
Nice.
I got to be honest. I've never had a girl ask me that question before. Could I talk with the dad first?
Nice.
So I was a little surprised at that, but I'm like, okay, I like this girl. So if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do.
Yeah.
So I did. I met with the dad, and he said, yeah, I think it's a little too soon right now, but I mean, just give it some time, like take her advice and just hang out in groups and see if things develop. And if you still like her, then we can have this talk again. So I did. And I respectfully but persistently pursued in groups as friends. A couple months later, I said, okay, so I'm still interested in this. How are you feeling about that? She's like, okay, I think maybe I'd move into this. And so I had another date with the dad. And he said, all right, if you want the green light to pursue Leah, you have my blessing, go for it. And things took off from there.
Nice. There you go. Yeah, I like your phrase, consistently, as much as you could, but persistently. That was good.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about about courtship. I know that that's a term that gets thrown around a lot. So how would you define courtship? How would you define what you did with Leah? Would you define that as courtship? And do you think that has a negative stigma in today's dating culture?
In our culture today, it definitely does have a negative stigma, and I don't think it should. I think there is some wisdom to that approach. So essentially, courtship I would define as the guy has to date the dad before he dates the girl.
Okay.
It's when you have the whole family involved in the process.
Yeah.
And it's important to look at dating from a historical perspective. It's a relatively new phenomenon. It's a product of Western individualistic culture. It's only been around for less than 100 years.
Yeah.
The majority of societies around the world functioned either by arranged marriages or through a courtship model.
Yeah.
And I think the advantage of a courtship model is it brings the whole family into the process. And so it can spare you a lot of hurt. I mean, although we value our individual freedom and autonomy, it's also very easy to get heartbroken in today's dating culture. And I think that a courtship model protects you from that. And it ensures that the relationship is moving forward safely and securely with outside eyes on the situation.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it also follows the biblical model of the family, where you've got the dad, protecting and shepherding the daughter, or protecting and shepherding the son, whatever the situation may be. Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of wisdom in how you guys and how a lot of people have gone about doing that. So what do you think is the number one component that's missing from dating today?
I mean, if you look at our culture as a whole, I would say the component that's missing is an intention of commitment.
Hmm.
I think people date for fun, they date for pleasure, but they don't understand that dating is intended to be a stepping stone to marriage. That is its function. Um, you date so that someday you don't have to date,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so, I mean, uh, I think that the problem is we've adopted too casual approach to it when we fail to recognize that it is meant to lead ultimately towards a commitment in marriage.
yeah. I agree. Like I think I heard one pastor say it's almost like dating has become a sport. It's
Yeah.
not, and to a degree, it might be if the sport is a race where the end goal, where the finish line is marriage. But
Right.
in today's culture, it's almost become like, all right, how many people can I date? Like how often can I do this or whatever?
Right.
It's a different mindset, and yeah, it can be insanely damaging. Yeah, that's a very good point.
I remember a pastor of mine once said that your goal should not be to become awesome at dating,
Yeah,
to be an expert at dating.
yeah,
If that's your goal, you're doing something wrong.
yeah. There's something wrong there. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a really really good point. All right, so let's talk about guys and girls for a second. So, what's one
Sure.
encouragement that you would give to guys in how to pursue a young lady well?
Yes. So I think it is important to recognize that in the natural order of things, God has designed men to ordinarily be the pursuer and girls to be the one pursued. And I think the advice that I would give to guys in our culture today is to work on your own character first. I've not just girls that I have gone out with in the past, but girls that have been friends of mine too. A lot of them have been burned in past relationships of theirs that they've told me about because um, guys, it's a misuse of technology.
Hmm.
It could be because of all their free time is spent playing video games or
Yeah,
computer games, or also, unfortunately, pornography. Those are major, I think, dangers and pitfalls for young men in our culture today. And the problem is it hurts their chances of having a healthy dating and ultimately marriage relationship.
for sure.
And so they need to work on self-control and building their own character first.
Yeah, that's a really good encouragement. All right, so what about young ladies? So what encouragement would you give them um, to know how to respond to pursuit well?
Yeah. Very good. As I said, I think in the natural order of things, girls are ordinarily the ones who are pursued rather than the pursuer. But I think it's important for us to distinguish between responsiveness and passivity.
Mm,
Girls are not supposed to be passive in this process. In fact, I would encourage girls, be assertive. Express what it is that you're feeling. Express what it is that you want. Especially like I know a lot of guys have a temptation to push things further physically than they should go.
yeah,
And girls need to be vocal about that, like, and say what their boundaries are and to hold to those boundaries. And another thing I would say is don't be afraid to hurt the guy's feeling. It's not a sin to hurt someone's feelings. Okay. It depends on the reason, of course.
yeah,
But if you're not interested in the guy, don't just avoid him or don't try to let him down gently. Just say, I don't feel that way.
yeah,
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. It might hurt up front, but it's better simply to say it and be vocal about it than to prolong the pain for both of you.
yeah. Stringing it out. Yeah, I would agree, and I would also say that ladies hold the trump card when it comes to um, guys developing their character. Like if a guy is interested in a young lady, but she's having high standards, and she says, "Yeah, I like you. I think you're attractive. I think you're funny, but I see this in you. Like you don't really have a whole lot of high character." Then, hopefully he'll listen to that. So yeah, young ladies definitely be strong in that, step up and um, hold us accountable. All right, so talking about boundaries, what are some boundaries that you guys have set up to keep y'all's relationship honorable?
Yep. So we've had some pretty clear boundaries, from the beginning. Obviously, the big one is we are saving sex for marriage, and we don't fudge on that boundary just because we're engaged. We haven't set our vows yet, and so we're both very strongly committed to that, to holding to that boundary. But it's also important to recognize the way human nature works when it comes to physical affection and boundaries. People are like magnets, where the closer you draw together, the stronger the pull gets. So each step you take, the harder it is to say no to the next step.
Yep.
And so it's good to have strong boundaries early on and to hold to those boundaries. So I didn't even kiss Leah until we got engaged.
Yeah.
We were engaged, or we got engaged. It was over a year since I first asked her out before we got engaged.
Yeah.
Those boundaries were very important to us. And in addition to that, my roommate is an accountability partner to me, to make sure that my own sinful nature doesn't get the better of me and pull me into temptation.
Nice.
So I think those are some important steps to have in place to ensure that you maintain godly boundaries.
Nice. So how does having those boundaries now set up a couple for a successful marriage?
So yes, I think it's hugely important, because the reality is no one can predict the future. Mm-hmm. And if you cross those boundaries before you're in a covenant of marriage, and then for whatever reason that relationship ends, that is damage that you're going to carry with you into your future relationships and into your future marriage. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, God's grace is available. And I mean, everyone sins and stumbles in a variety of ways. And God's grace can cover our sexual failures in the past too. But you still have scars, and you're going to carry that into your future relationship. And so God has given us these boundaries for our benefit, for our flourishing, so that we can actually enjoy intimacy as He desired it, within the security and safety of a lifelong covenant commitment.
Nice. Yeah. That's a very good answer. Very good. All right. Last question. So what's one thing, the big takeaway from your experiences and from your experience with Leah, what's the one encouragement that you want to pass along to students as they are dating or thinking about dating, and maybe taking the next steps here in the next few years towards maybe engagement or whatever?
So, I guess my perspective on dating is a little bit unique, because I've been doing it for a while, I guess, just in terms of the span of my lifetime, now that I'm in my mid to late 30s. And I can say in hindsight that I used to be terrified of rejection. But then I got rejected a couple times, and I realized, this isn't the end of the world. And so my encouragement to those, who are entering into the world of dating is, don't be discouraged if it doesn't work out the first time. You're probably going to get hurt at some point or another, or you're going to hurt someone. Yeah. And that is just the reality of the dating world. Don't be afraid of that. Learn from it, and let that be an opportunity to grow in wisdom, and also allow that to be an opportunity for you to learn empathy with others who have experienced disappointment or hurt or rejection in dating relationships too, because it might actually be God's way of equipping you to be a comfort to someone else.
That's awesome. That's great, man. Awesome stuff. Very, very good wisdom. All right, now for a end of our interview segment called the lightning round. Quick questions that Kyle did not get beforehand. So here we go. Answer off the top of my head as my children are screaming. Go-to quarantine snack.
Ooh, go-to quarantine snack. Chips and guacamole. I'm a big fan of guacamole.
Nice. All right, favorite theology book of all time. The Bible doesn't count.
Bible doesn't count. All right. Far as the Curse is Found by Michael Williams. It's a book on covenant theology. Nice.
Good one. Your most unusual talent.
My most unusual talent. I know a fictional language, Klingon, from Star Trek. I guess that would be one of them.
All right. If you could be best friends with any Lord of the Rings character, who would it be and why?
Ooh. Gandalf, because he has awesome superpowers.
I thought you were going to go either Gandalf or Aragorn, because I would go Aragorn. But